Hello. Up and Thrive Summit. I am so excited to be back with you today. I've been playing in some of your homework this morning from yesterday, and that just makes me so happy to see you guys digging in, rolling up your sleeves. The work when we're identifying that top message of if the whole world could hear one message from you is not an easy task, I can promise you. But when you get it, you really elevate how you are showing up in the world. You elevate your message and people take notice. When you get to that point where you're getting them to stop and pause and think differently, to act differently, people start to notice, right? And that's how you really raise up your thought leadership presence. That's how you raise up your leadership, because when we have something that's meaningful to say, something that's worthwhile and stopping to listen to, it's then that people want to hear more. That's how you draw people deeper into the work that you're doing. So we had some really good starts, and I can tell you almost no one gets it right the first time. I can tell you that when I did mine, it actually took me over a year to really get there, right? So this is something that I promise you, take some time with it, play with it, even partner up with people. When I'm doing workshops, I often will put 4 people together and get them working on their message together. So they start talking about, what is it? What's the change that you want to create? How do you want to make a difference? What if the whole world hears one message from you? What is it? And when you'll find that when you start to just talk about this, that the messages start to flow. And when you're working in a foursome, you guys can start to play off of each other. We'll do that at Soul Speaks from the Stage. We do it at Ignite every year. So watch for those opportunities, or you can just put together your own group on that as well. So it's a good way to dig into that question. If the whole world hears one message, play with a partner on it, because you guys can feed off of each other on your messaging. You can even drop a note into the chat here and say, gosh, I'd love to pair up with somebody who wants a partner to pair up on this task. So take time with it, play with it. But good work, everyone who did contribute on their homework yesterday. I really appreciate the good focus on that, because it's that message that will really elevate you into a leadership role, so that people are saying, she knows what she's talking about. And that's where I want all of you to get to, right? I want you to get to this place where you're known as the expert in your space, that you're the go-to person in that space. That's where you're headed, because when you get to that place, people want to work with you. People come to you. They say, you know what you're talking about. I want to work with you. That's how you draw people in. So good morning, everyone. For those of you who are just logging on, if you haven't gone out to StreamYard.com/Facebook, that would be great, because then I can tell who's showing up. I can tell Shelly's here. So great to see you, Shelly. And the other one I see is a Facebook user, because you haven't done that. The one that wrote raise up, I can't see who you are, and I'd love to see who you are. So do that. And if you guys will, that way I can see who's there and commenting, and I often will know your businesses then too. So it helps me really stay centered. I want to stop and start this morning with our winner. We've got a winner from yesterday, and it's a deck of my Pony Pondering cards, which I love to give away, because they're a great way to start a day and tuning into what's that inner wisdom in you say, what do you need to know today? It's a great tool for you as an entrepreneur. And I went back through comments from yesterday, and I am also going to I went back through the comments yesterday and just through the homework from yesterday as well. And today's winner of our deck is Dana Edwards. So Dana, thank you so much. I am excited. Drop me your email, or not your email, your mailing address, your hard copy email address, so that we can send this in snail mail to you. And so get that off to me, and you'll get your own deck of Pony Ponderings. I love to give those away. So that's a lot of fun. One of the things I want you guys to do today, and I was on last week, I was on an eWomen Content Creation Summit, which was a lot of fun, and I got a lot of great tips on it. One of the things they did on it last week was when people heard something that really resonated with them, we would type in #boom. So it becomes this content that we can go back to. So use the #boom and then type whatever message that you're taking away. That's that aha moment that keeps you going. I want to remember this. It is going to be great for us, because then we can always go back and do #boom searches and find the best tips that have shown up over the course of time in our Extraordinary Women Connect group. One of my goals for Extraordinary Women Connect is for it to really become a great resource for you guys to come back to dig into, to be able to take away lessons that are going to teach you, that you can come back to and remember, and to create community. So that's the other good reason to be, reaching out to each other here, because I love to connect great women to great women. And this is why I have this community, is to create and connect and uplift. So I'm so glad all of you are here. I'm seeing some more people in the room that I can see who your names are. I see Kathy McCarty. It's great to have you, Kathy. Ashley Dodge, thanks for saying who you are on your post. That's really helpful for me. Hopefully all of you have downloaded day 2. And this is our day 2 workbook. And it's in the announcements at the top of the page. So if you haven't already done that, go ahead and download that, and you'll have some, take notes throughout it. You can do key takeaways. And you guys, if you get to the end, on the back side of all of these, they have a questions to ask Cami section. If you get to the end of it and you still have questions, jot them down and send me a note. You can send me a note, and we'll look for a way to get these questions answered to you. So yes, Dana Edwards, I can see you as Facebook user. So if you go out to streamyard.com/Facebook, then and just put in your connect to it, it will be able to tell me that's who you are. Shelly Johnson, I see you. That's awesome. So good to see all of you this morning. So let's just dive in, because this is a topic that I love, love, love. And yesterday I started posting and hashtagging some story spotlights on the Extraordinary Women Connect group. And I hope you had a chance to even watch like the first 30 seconds of a few of them, because that powerful opening, that powerful storytelling, it can be it's such a good way to connect with your audience, right? And I'm going to start with the very beginning, that we go back to what we talked about yesterday. We fall in love with souls and not faces. Our stories are the window to our soul. That's how people connect to us. When we start to talk about our stories, being vulnerable, opening up a little bit, really starting to share something about ourselves, they can start to see themselves in you. And that's the power of stories. It's so powerful. And it makes you memorable amongst all the noise that's out there. There's so much noise out there. And this is part of why I'm so passionate about you guys finding a message that is elevated. It's about having a story to tell that is meaningful, that connects people. And tomorrow we'll be talking about, a content strategy around this. And all of this really helps us stand out from all the noise that's on social media, that's out, when we're back to being in person again, it's like we stand out and people remember us. So there's the memorable piece. The second part of this is a know, love, and trust factor. And I know a lot of people say no like factor, no like trust factor. I say heck with like. I want love. I want people in my community, in my groups, that's about love. It's about them feeling the connection to me feeling the connection to them. And that to me feels way different than no like trust. So no love trust factor. And when you have good stories that people see you, that they're seeing your soul through the lens of your stories, then there's where the love factor really comes in, right? And then it makes you relatable, because none of us are Nobody is higher than somebody else. We're all on this journey. We're all here meant to do something different. And when we start to share all our vulnerable moments, we become relatable. People say, she gets me. And that's really important when you're making connections with someone. It creates intrigue and creates interest. So it's a way for people to say, I want to know more about this person. So stories are incredibly important in how we are showing up and how we're connecting with people online, in person, in our businesses. So important. Thought I would start with my own story. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story because I don't want to take up our whole time, but I want you to get the gist of something here. I want you to start to feel this. So I'm just going to pause for a moment. It was a cold, snowy November day. We'd gotten about 18 inches of snow that day. And I was on the phone with my coach. I was in tears. I was trying to figure out my what's next. I had applied for a job and I did not want that job. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I had no idea what my what's next was. I had left the corporate world about 17 months before this. And it was the winter of 2000, what year was that? It was 2012. No, it wasn't. It was 2009. Excuse me. It was 2009. And it was this cold, wintry day. And my coach said to me, well, what are you passionate about? And I paused and I didn't know. I did not know the answer to that question. And I didn't know what to do with that. And it made me burst into tears even more. It's like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I figure out what I'm supposed to do with my life? And she paused and she said, well, why don't you go out today and breathe the breath of your horse? I was like, what? Sure. Okay. I've been a horse person my whole life. And I don't really know what I'm supposed to do, why I'm supposed to do that, but I'm going to take your advice on that. So I came downstairs, I put on my snow boots, and I opened up to the door to this snowy wonderland. The trees were covered in snow, and they were weighted down from so much snow on them. And I trudged through the snow to my barn. As I got to the barn, my mare, Sugary, was there at the gate. And she looked at me and she had frost on her whiskers and her breath you could see it in the air because it was such a cold day. So you can see, I'm going to pause there. I've painted a story, right? I've painted this story of this moment. I've shared some vulnerability. I've described the scenes. I didn't start with the very beginning from, way back when. I started in this moment where I was in this peril. And that's the start of a good story. And the thing is I have hundreds of stories, and I will often play with different stories on any given day. I might start with that story. I might start with a story of being fearful of being on the stage. I might start with a story of, I have lots of different stories to pull from. So what I'd like you to do is to just start to list out some of those key moment stories. And that's the first item that you've got on page 2 of your worksheet. Name your stories. You've got space to make about 5 different stories. And what I like to do is recommend that you actually keep a log of stories, because your stories will shift up. You will be able to leverage you pull in stories at different times. One of the things that I love as a podcaster, I won't even talk to people if all they want to do is give me a whole lot of signature talk stories, or not stories. If they want to do all signature talk and they want to just say, okay, I want to do my teachings on your podcast, I'm like, that's not even interesting to me. I want a real interesting story to come on to Extraordinary Women Connect. And if I am bringing somebody onto the stage at Extraordinary Women Ignite, I want their stories to inspire my people that are in the room. So stories can be really powerful. So as I'm talking here, be jotting down your life story titles. So that one was the day that my horse helped me figure out what the heck I wanted to do in my life, and all the pieces came together. That's my horse story. And that's where that story goes. If I would have carried that out further, I would have told you that there was this breakthrough moment in breathing with my horse that suddenly I knew I was not supposed to go back to the corporate world. I was supposed to be an entrepreneur. And that story took place 12 years ago. And it still, to this day, brings such meaning to me because I know that was such a pivotal moment in my life. So what are the pivotal moments in your life that have shifted something for you, that have taught you something, that have given you an aha? Jot the names of those stories down, because those stories are something that can really take that connection to your audiences in a bigger way, right? It can help you tune in and reach your audience in a different way because you're telling a story. And we all, frankly, how many times do you sit around with your girlfriends and tell each other stories, right? How do you sit around with family members and you tell stories? Stories connect us. And that's the power that's there. So what are your stories? And start to jot down different stories. We'll talk about which story is the right story here in just a moment for you to choose, because that can also be the big question. Well, it's like, yeah, I've got hundreds of stories. Which is the right story for you to tell? We'll dig deeper into that in just a moment. So this is the components of a signature story. You're going to start with first this crisis or this challenge. So in mine, I was in this place of, gosh, I don't know what I'm meant to do. I don't know where I'm meant to go. I'm feeling really lost. I don't want to go back to the corporate world. That was just I knew in my heart that was not the path that I was meant to go down, but I didn't know what the heck I meant to do, right? I just didn't really know what I was meant to do. That moment, that walk to that barn, that breath with my horse, I had this aha moment, and suddenly all the puzzle pieces came together. And I knew that I wasn't supposed to go back to the corporate world, that I was supposed to go start my own business. And it opened a door for me. So there was this defining moment that went, oh, like the angels were singing, right? It's like, whoa. And the angels sang, and I knew what I was meant to do. I came in and I journaled, and within a month I was off doing my thing. So there's the defining moment that shifted everything. The third part of a signature story is your results and success. Well, I started a business 11 years ago, and I get to help women around the world doing what, raising up their voice and their visibility and growing their businesses. And I love what I do. So, clearly the universe had a different pathway for me. And it was that moment that really helped me see it through a different lens. And so this is what you're looking for. You're looking for a story that you're in a challenge. There's this defining moment that changes everything, and you step into a whole new realm. So whatever that looks like for you, and you all can look at your different stories and say, okay, which is the right story? Let's go a little bit deeper into this, because as you think through what's the right story, there's some models, and you've got this in your workbook as well. And where you don't actually start on the bottom of this triangle or the top of this triangle. You actually start more towards the middle of this triangle. You want to know, first of all, who's your audience? What do they need to know? What's that change you want them to take? This is kind of going back to what we were talking about yesterday with that key message. How are they going to think and act, and what are you going to have them do differently, right? So there's the starting with the end in mind. What do you want them to think and do differently? This middle part is, if you can get clear on this, then you can start to say, okay, what's the right story for me to be telling here? Then you can get into, what are you going to offer? What is it that you sell that makes your business grow? Because this is important, that you can't just come up with, oh, Shelley, the workbook is in the workbook is in the announcements on the Extraordinary Women Connect Facebook group. It's also in your email if you registered for the course. So you have two places that you can grab that. So getting clear about what you will offer, what is the product or opportunity that you're going to offer at the end of your talk, because you want it to you want it to be related. You don't want to tell a story that isn't related to a lesson that you teach in your work. And so that's another question as you look across this list of stories. It's like, okay, which one of these is really relevant to, so one, if you're a financial advisor, let's just take that one for example. What do you want? What action do you want them to take? It needs to be a story that tells probably some of your stories around financial decisions and vulnerability and that sort of thing. If you are, I'll take Kathy McCarty has a really wonderful story that she tells around, and her topic is helping people go make sure that their houses are not contaminated with meth toxins, because there are so many houses that are being sold right now that have meth toxin contaminants in it. Her story is her own personal story, and she's got a deeply personal story behind getting people to take different action. So these three pieces are very important. It's very important for you to really dig into. And then you get into the key messages that we were starting to talk about yesterday. What is it that you want them to understand, to remember? And we'll even go more deeply into that tomorrow as far as the content strategy that you want to build around your topic. And then you choose your story, right? So this is not your traditional, top up or top down approach to looking at getting to your right story. You start in the center, go down to the bottom, and then move up to the top. So that, if you're really looking at this list of stories that you've created, you will be able to start to see which ones of those stories are the right stories to be talking about. And that's how you tell, right? Because you're going to have lots of different options. So here's some things to remember about your signature story. First of all, be vulnerable. Share your emotions. Nobody wants to see a talk where nobody wants to see a story where there's no connection to it. And that's where you can really start to have your audiences feel you, right? Remember, people fall in love with our souls, not our faces. So you want them to feel you. And that's where sometimes when you say, oh my gosh, I don't want to tell that story, I encourage you to pause on that statement and say, why? Because it may be that most vulnerable story that gets people to say, I can relate to her. I can totally relate to her because. And so if your instant reaction to one of those stories is it's too vulnerable, I would ask you to kind of second guess that a little bit. And really go deeper into that. People want to know how you feel. They want to know your opinion. They want to know your story. You don't have to tell a story from front to end, right? You can start right at a very specific moment in time, and there could be a backstory, and you may bring that backstory in at some point. But the more important part of that is to do it in a way that you're drawing them in, you're hooking them in those first statements. And that's why I said, go watch a couple of those story spotlights that I posted yesterday, because you'll see some good examples of that. A couple that come to mind right off the top of my head is Nicole Trick-Steinbach's is really good on her entry. Cynthia Farrell's is really good on her entry. That first moment grabbing somebody. So take a look at that. It's about letting them know who you are. And it creates that no love and trust factor that I talked about. And keep in mind that I already said this, the story has to link to what you're selling. So important. So you paint a picture, you bring in the visuals. When I was talking about walking out the door and the trees were weighted down in the snow, and I could see the frost off her whiskers, and I could see, the frosty air. So those are the picture. You're painting a vision of what you're experiencing. Again, you're bringing the people into the scene. So powerful. So another thing is that powerful story beginning. Again, you're looking for that moment. You're painting the picture. You're really starting to draw someone in. It's that hook. So I just wanted to reemphasize that component of it. And my invitation to you today, I'm so excited about today's homework. So here's what we're doing today. You guys did a good start yesterday as you started digging into that. If the whole world could hear one message. Today, I want you to pick one of those stories that you wrote down. And I want you to play with an opening line, an opening, maybe 30, 60 seconds, probably 60 seconds. That's probably a good one. And, you're looking for that moment where you're hooking somebody in and you're saying, come in, you're inviting them into your story. You don't have to, you won't have to, we won't have time to listen to everybody's full story, but we do have time to listen to an opener hook. And what I'd like you to do is use your phone, right? Use your phone, record yourself, put yourself on camera and get yourself on camera and say, really just start to come into that space and start to share your story, take that moment, take yourself back into that moment in time and say, and give us 60 seconds of it. Record it, post it into the group. I have this week left the community's ability to be able to post. So all of you can post directly into Extraordinary Women Connect this week. Typically we have a layer where it has to be approved. We've turned that off so that you can post directly into the Extraordinary Women Connect with your video and share. And just be you. Remember, we could go all the way back to what we were talking about yesterday, this light of you, this who you are at your essence, building your brand from the inside out. We're starting to, so even think about what's around you. What is around you that feels like it's part of your brand. It's part of who you are. There's no accident that I have this behind me. And depending on which day it is, sometimes you see that behind me, right? You've got the cowgirl back there. So it's important to create space that feels like your brand and just tap into your story and play with it. Because when you have an opening line into your story, that you're just speaking from your heart, you're just speaking from your soul. That's the space that it starts to flow from you and people start to feel your soul. We are going to be doing a whole weekend, Soul Speaks from the Stage, the end of March. We've got just a couple spaces left. My clients get first dibs on those spaces, but we do have just a few spaces left. If you are interested in building out your story in greater detail and practicing it from the stage, that's what we do over the whole weekend. We spend a whole weekend on this topic. And I love that whole weekend because it's so powerful. And that's what you see. All those videos are straight out of that. So the story spotlights are straight out of Soul Speaks from the Stage. If that is something you'd like to know more about, just reach out to me privately and I'll share more about it. I don't want to go into it here, but I do, I do know that that's a great way to really build that signature story out that you tell on stages, that you open your talks on stages, that you tell in podcasting. It's going to serve you. You even use those sorts of things in in a sales conversation. I am constantly telling my stories because people want to know who you are in a sales conversation. And they'll say, well, tell me what your journey has been like. I may not go into the whole horse story and all of that sort of thing, but being able to tap into some components of our story is really important. And having conversations and having a connected relationship with the people in our communities. So that is your fun homework for today. I can't wait to see what videos you guys do. Have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. This is a lot of information coming at you in a very short period of time. And nobody's is going to be perfect. I can promise you that. So use this as finding that moment, that hook that draws somebody in, that moment that it was like you're telling the story of, oh my gosh, what was that moment that you knew something that you were in that turmoil, that something was going to shift, that was going to change, and it was going to open up. So find it, play with it, and have fun with it. And again, we'll do another drawing. We'll do another drawing, but we'll do another winner tomorrow. And we will see you guys soon. Have a great day. Bye, guys.